These Holbein Gouache were in a block of ice for 3 or 4 days. Let's test them out and see if they all work. This gouache set is the 24, and it's Holbein, which is supposed to be a pretty good brand. And I have a few, but I wanted a few more colors, so it was cheaper for me just to get a set. This set came off of Amazon, and I included it in my haul. Let's go on. We're going to swatch these, and I'm going to set these over to the side here. I'm going to be using this watercolor book that I got off of Temu, and let me tell you, this watercolor book is not good for watercolor, but it may be okay for gouache, so I'm just going to use it for swatching. I tried to mess around with it with watercolor. Not good with watercolor. One side's textured and one side's smooth. So I think I will turn it over and use the textured side. It's got the 3-ring binder clips so you can remove the pages. I just don't like it, but I want to use it. So this comes with 24 colors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And of that is in black and white. Okay, so I'm going to mix each color on its own and then mix it with white and show you how it turns out. So I'm going to put some white up here in my mixing palette. So I can just grab it. And then I'm just going to take it from the tube and swatch it. This is alizarin crimson. And I'm more interested in, the colors, yes, but the texture, yes, because they were frozen. And, I want to make sure that they're usable. Now, I ordered these during when I knew a storm was coming. So I really don't feel like I should send them back. There's just a little bit of white and it makes it more opaque, but it really doesn't make it pastel. Cool, cool. Let me go ahead and get a black marker. And okay, so let's start over. I already did that, but let's do it again because I want to see, I'll leave that transparent one there, but I want to see if this becomes more opaque and covers the black line. I made that black line with a micron brush pen. It's permanent. So I'm going to take a little bit of white and put it down. And the white on its own is pretty good. Okay, that's probably a little bit more white than I put over here. Let's get a equal amount here and see about the transparency of the paint. So that is, I can still see the black line, but we'll wait till it dries. but I like the color payoff. It really doesn't desaturate it that much. Okay, so let's go here and get Carmine. I want to put 2 dots there because it came out. Now Carmine seems to be pretty opaque, and maybe I used it thinner. All right, that's a pretty color too. It's a little bit warmer. I got my paper towel, and I'm using a number 6 filbert. It's Christy Rice's brush set. It's nice. Perfect for gouache. These gouache seem to be fine. Being frozen doesn't seem to have affected them much at all. They're very smooth. You know, you might need just a teeny tiny bit of water just to get them moving. Nice. They almost seem more opaque than when you add white. All right. Here is Brilliant Orange. They actually seem perfectly fine. This color is really pretty, but it's a little bit more transparent. This one also seems like it's got a little bit of texture to it. That's pretty though, isn't it? Now that made that one brighter. White made that one brighter. Okay, here is Permanent Yellow Orange. This would be, I think this one would be a good mixing color into green to make it more natural. It seems like it's got a little bit of texture to it, but it's not affecting the workability of the paint. I like that. I like that. That reminds me of a creamsicle color, like a dreamsicle that we used to get from the ice cream truck. That's what that reminds me of. It's pretty. Makes me want to paint a popsicle or a push-up. Remember the push-ups that were orange? Now I can see some texture in this. Let's see if it affects the workability of the paint. Looks okay. Oops. It's a pretty color. I got some on there. I like it with white. That's real pastel. Real pastel. Now let's go. And that was Permanent Yellow. Here is Lemon Yellow. It's a little bit more towards green. there's a piece of lint or something right there. Need just a little bit more water. Gouache dries really fast. Traditional gouache does. And I have a baseboard heater at my feet, so it makes it dry even faster. I got quite a bit more white there. Still pretty transparent, but so pretty. I'll use these. Some of them have texture. When I say texture, I mean like a cottage cheese type look to them. This looks kind of drier. See, it's just not real creamy, but does seem to, once you get a little bit of water on them, buy them when you know you'll get them before freezing weather. Do not buy in winter. Don't buy paint in winter. Another thing I recommend when buying art supplies is to buy them from a reputable company. So I bought this book from Temu just to see how Temu, because they've got incredibly cheap prices. This brush is splitting. It goes back together with water. But when you're buying art supplies, like, I'm not gonna send this book back to China and try to get my money back. It's just not worth my time. But I was hoping that it would be a good watercolor book. I thought all the watercolor stuff I bought over there said 100% cotton. You know, this is not 100% cotton. Now that white makes this really nice and makes it opaque, but you know, some colors are still very transparent. I'm gonna put out some more white that's not contaminated. And even on Amazon, I think that there can be some fake products. However, on Amazon, you can click underneath the product and it will have the seller information. And Jerry's Art Aroma sells on Amazon. And I don't know if Dick Blick does or not, but there are a lot of companies that do sell on Amazon. But Dick Blick, Jerry's Art Aroma, Cheap Joe's, they are all reputable art supply companies. Wet Paint, St. Louis Art Supply. I've bought from St. Louis Art Supply a few times, and their shipping and product arrives, you know, nicely packaged, and they put a little note in there, thank you note. It's nice. I have to apologize for my voice cracking like it is. The weather is changing. It is trying to get stormy. This is deep green, permanent green deep. This one was emerald green, and this one was leaf green. Okay, this one ought to be pretty. This one's olive green. Okay, let's get it. I'm going to get my white first so I don't contaminate it. And then get my olive green and bring it over. so pretty. That is a pretty, pretty green. So see if I added a little bit of that orange to this, you could make it even deeper. Let me rinse my brush and swatch this out. That's pretty opaque. Just out of curiosity, I'm going to see what the pigment information is on this olive green. I don't know that I see it. It says, do not put in a palette. Gouache will dry out and crack and fall from the palette. So this is meant to be used straight from the tube. Oh, here it is, pigment name, PY1 and PG8. And it says it's opaque, and it seems to be opaque. All right, so let's do turquoise blue. I didn't do all the pigment information up there, but let me see. PG50, PB15, PG7, PW6. So this has white in it. That's what I was looking for. A lot of gouaches will have white already in them. And you can almost tell by the color because it will come out looking like the color. Let me get a little bit of white here. Whereas if it was like just PG15, it would, and PG7, it would be come out of the tube dark. But when it comes out of the tube light like this, it most certainly, most of the time, have some white in it. But boy, when you mix it with white, doesn't that look pretty? That's a pretty sky color. Pretty, pretty sky color. Love that one. I think my gouache collections, I only have like 3 Daniel Smith gouache, or 3 or 4, because now this is PG15, so I expect when I open this tube it to look dark, and it does. See, it doesn't look light already. All right, so let's get some white and mix with it. And this is a more sky blue. It says turquoise. And this is more of a true blue. Pretty. I like them both. I would use this one for sky. Very nice. I think these paints are going to be just fine. This one is Ultramarine Deep. That one was called Turquoise Blue and Pure Blue. This one was Pure Blue, this was Turquoise. And this is Ultramarine Deep. Oh, isn't that pretty? I love a good ultramarine. This leans more towards red or purple. Let's get some white. Let's get that off our brush first. My water's getting brown, but we're just swatching. So another recommendation that I would give you when purchasing art supplies is to go with a good brand. Holbein's a good brand. So when it comes to gouache, I'm not as experienced with gouache as I am with, I'm going to get my paper towel and bring it over here because I need to wipe that off. I'm not as experienced with gouache as I am with watercolor. So, see, I don't know if you can see that. I most certainly don't think you can. It has a little, it kind of looks like cottage cheese coming out of the top of the tube. So I think that the weather has done that. However, oh, that Prussian blue is so pretty. It's just, it doesn't seem to be affecting the paint though. But next time, if I have to reorder, I will reorder when there's no bad weather coming. I was hoping, you know, as that's a really pretty blue. That is beautiful. I love that. That just gave me an idea. That just gave me an idea. I'm loving these muted. I love how that's kind of like a muted blue, kind of like a smoky blue. And you can even add something to that that is just about perfect. So I was getting a little tired. My voice was getting a little cracky. So I decided to voice over this next segment of the swatching. These gouache paints are beautiful. So being frozen in the ice block in the winter didn't really affect their laydown at all. I even got a comment from a viewer saying that she actually stores her gouache in between uses in the freezer. So I thought that to be interesting. So these mixed beautifully with white. They mixed beautifully with each other. Some of the pigments were a little weird, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. But I think that these will be wonderful to work with. I'm wanting to expand in my media, so these some of these colors are transparent, but some of them are always going to be transparent unless you mix them with white, and then they get a little more opaque. So they're going to be easy to use. And when I went to mix them with each other, they this yellow ochre is nice. It's opaque from the very beginning. You mix it with white and it's just didn't decrease in saturation hardly at all. So now I went to mix a black with a yellow ochre to see if I could get green, and I did. A black and a green will mix, or a black and a yellow will make a beautiful green. And this is, I think it's Indian red or burnt sienna. I think that's burnt sienna, yeah. And it turned out really good. And then it mixed well with ultramarine deep and made it really lovely black, lovely dark. And when you mixed it with white, it became a warm gray. And then I had the burnt umber and I mixed it with ultramarine and it became a cool black and ended up being a really nice cool dark and made a beautiful cool gray. So I really, really enjoyed these paints. I have to get a little used to them because I'm not used to working with gouache as much. You have to rinse your brush a lot. You have to change your rinse water out frequently because, your rinse water will just get really, really dirty. Okay, so here are my final thoughts. Here's the colors. You got all of these colors. They mix really well, and as to be expected, I mixed ultramarine blue with burnt sienna and came up with a nice dark that turned into a warm gray when I mixed it with white. And then I mixed ultramarine brown or ultramarine blue with burnt umber, and it came up with a nice cool dark, which made a cool gray, which I like. And this ivory black is really strong, really high tinting strength, so you won't have to use much of that. I found them to be quite transparent, some colors more than others. Yellow ochre you would expect to be a little bit opaque, and it was. It was more opaque full on than it was after I mixed it with the white. And so was burnt sienna. This blue violet I really liked when it was mixed with white. And I love this Prussian blue mixed with white. That has been my favorite color. I think you could get a good skin tone. You could get a variety of greens with your different blues and your different yellows. So I think this is a really, really good set. And even though they were in an ice block for a few days, I really think that these are a good quality paint. Now this Opera Rose, or Rose it's called, the pigment numbers were a little bit weird. They said the pigment was BR1, and it could be bright red and bright violet, because BV7 and 11, comma 11. So I've never heard of those pigments. It must be some fluorescent pigment. But all the others seem to be, spot on. PY1, PG7, PY1, PG7. The magenta is it says BV15. BV15. Is that blue violet? I don't know. I do not know. Let's look at the blue violet. This says BV1. I'm going to look that up and I'll tell you about it. So don't forget to like and subscribe if you like these kinds of videos. I'm going to be doing more mixed media, and I'm just really into checking these colors out and matching them up, and and using mixed media, because sometimes it's just fun. It's just fun to have fun with your supplies. So I will see you guys later, and like and subscribe, and